Open defecation is a human practice of defecating in an open environment rather than into a built toilet, in most cases in rural areas, for instance from living homes. Open defecation poses a serious threat health-wise to the immediate community where such acts are allowed to perpetrate. Speaking on the dangers of open defecation on ITV's flagship program, the Deputy Director, Environmental Health and Safety, Abuja Environmental Protection Board, Simeon Ajuayiti, said availability of mobile toilets in and around the FCT would help to curb the maintenance.
If the government engaged the private sector in a stakeholders meeting and say, okay, how many of you are ready to come and build toilets? We'll give you the enabling environment. These are the locations, this way, that way, that way, that way, that way. Mark it out. The urban planner will tell us that, okay, this place is safe for the installation of this toilet. This place is staged. You know, we have various approaches to it now. We have the stationary toilet. We have the movable toilet. We have the mobile toilet.
Yeah.
If we have adequate number of these, we will not have this problem with us. It will disappear with time.
He called on the National Orientation Agency and other stakeholders to rise up to their responsibility of educating rural communities on the consequences of open defecation.
The National Orientation
Agency is first and foremost responsible for the new information to the grassroots. And that partnership, that synergy is missing. We should all work together as a team, educating the rural populace. They should rise up to the occasion and make sure that the average Nigerian sees the need for decent disposal of human waste and the consequences if we do not. As we speak, apart from foul odor, we have diseases that are associated with open defecation. We cannot afford it. As we speak, Nigeria is now second position in open defecation, worldwide, global position.
The Deputy Director blamed open defecation for the outbreak of cholera in Jiwa community of the FCT. The Minister of State for Environment, Usman Jibrin, says Nigeria's ranking as the second highest country prevalent with open defecation should be a wake-up call for the federal government to curb the maintenance.
One local government in Cross River has been declared defecation free. This is a step in the right direction. It's better to start something even if they're not doing anything at all. So I will tell you that the ranking to us is a wake-up call, and fortunately we are not the last. We will move from there until we get to the top.
There is therefore the need for Nigerians to get access to improved sanitation and clean environment in order to curb the attendant consequences of dirty and unclean atmosphere. Osawana Meibizugbe, ITV News, Abuja.
You are still watching this morning on ITV. The clip you watch is definitely going to, or has introduced what we are going to be discussing, World Toilet Day. An investment of 850 billion naira is required for the construction of 25 million toilets in Nigeria. That's really, really shocking to see a country like Nigeria that's a challenge when it comes to toilet system. And to the point that 25 million of that is what we need, with an investment that will be gulping over 850 billion naira. Well, we'll be looking at why does the World Health Organization has to set a day aside for toilet. What is so special with toilet? We'll be looking at this through the eyes of our consultant public health physician, Dr. Aderonke Akande. Very good morning, and you're welcome.
Good morning.
Yeah, like I said, why do we need to celebrate toilet?
Okay. The World Toilet Day is anchored on the arrangement of the whole organization that work towards toilet in the whole world. It was established in 2001, but it actually come as a United Nations Day in 2013. This is important because it's aimed at creating awareness regarding the importance of toilets. Also, it promotes health and prevents diseases that are related to sanitation. It also inspires actions to eradication of global sanitation crisis. Because in the whole world, about 4.2 billion people lack access to clean toilets. That is huge.
Very
and
huge.
This is over 50% of the whole world population. So that is why the whole leaders of the whole nations come together and agree on sanitation for all in the year 2013. And each year it is being championed by United Nations Water. So they lead the campaign with a typical theme. The theme of this year's celebration is Leave No One Behind. So we are leaving no one behind because whoever you are, wherever you are, access to clean toilet is your right. You have to ask for it. And a lot of people in the local community,
so who
in
do you
rural
ask?
area.
Who do you ask?
We can ask our leaders, actually. We can ask our leaders. Every society has a leader. Let's ask our leader, our political leader, our social leaders. And every individual also have a role to play in this celebration. Another thing that World Toilet Day does is it highlights the socioeconomic burdens of lack of access to toilet due to our inactions. It also emphasizes the need of women and girls and people in the vulnerable situation like we have in the northeastern part of the country. You know, people in IDP areas, they lack access to toilets.
Sure.
Women and girls, they could not live economic and social life because their life is restricted around toilets. A girl will not go to school when it's menstruating, and this has been estimated to account for about 20% of school year loss. You know, this has a severe implication on learning and learning impact on economy of a nation.
Sure.
So if a girl child is not able to get education, it's not going to develop, it's not going to achieve anything.
It affects productivity.
It affects productivity. In a situation where civil servants don't have access to toilets, they leave the work and they go and eat themselves wherever they do. You know, as it is important to have access to water and food, it is equally important to have access to toilets. Because it represents dignity. It's a human right to life and dignity. And it's a means of livelihood also. You can't control what to excrete. When you eat, you are meant to excrete.
Sure.
So that is how important toilet is. And yearly in Nigeria, we lose about 60,000 children to diarrhea diseases, which could be prevented by simply provision of toilet facility and hand washing facility. So these are the issues that brought about World Toilet Day celebration.
So, but the shocking thing in Nigeria is the fact that we need about 250 million toilets. And one would just wonder, how did we get to this point that this, huge number of toilets is required?
Yeah, we require that huge amount because about 46 million Nigerians don't have access to clean toilets. And they still defecate in the open. In Abuja alone, about 35% of the population defecate in the open. So this rural community needs to be reached. And if you go to our schools also, about 52% of schools lack toilet facilities. And
in the FCT or in Nigeria?
In the whole Nigeria. So this is huge. And you have to construct toilets in the school, in health facilities, and in public places. So, and our population. So this is a lot. It's a lot of figures that we need to be addressed. So that is why we need that huge amount of money to construct toilets.
Many houses in Abuja, well, if I say many, maybe I'm going to exaggerate. Some houses in Abuja are built without toilets. I mean, it's shocking to hear that in the nation's capital.
It is, really.
So what is the motive behind that?
human population is exploded right now. We are experiencing population explosion rather. So what I mean by that is that we compete for resources. We compete for land, we compete for water, we compete for amenities. And you know, considering Nigeria population, a lot of people, over 70% of population of Nigeria live in rural areas. And these are low income, or let me say average people who cannot construct toilets by themselves. So overpopulation contributes immensely to open defecation and to construction of buildings without toilet. And government also has a big role to play regarding this. Because when people are constructing houses, they need to be checked. They need to be told the right thing to do. You don't construct a house without a toilet. If you can construct a house, you must put a toilet in the house. So that is quite important.
Okay, if you are just joining us, the program is this morning on ITV, and today is World Toilet Day. We are looking at that through the eyes of our consultant public health physician, Dr. Aderonke Akande. Now, let us look at the relationship between well, this toilet, and then why do we have this increased number of open defecation and the effect of open defecation? I've asked like 3 things.
Yes.
Okay, let's look at one. Effect of open defecation.
Yes, like I've stated earlier on, overpopulation contributes immensely to open defecation. And the impact of open defecation cannot be overemphasized. In the sense that human beings require some level of privacy while excreting him or herself. But in a situation where you go to the open, you are exposed to high risk of physical hazards or physical assaults, like snake bites, like maybe injury. You can sustain injury while doing that. When you defecate in the open, usually some people defecate along the river banks. When it rains, the flood washes all the feces into the river bodies. So like rivers, streams, lake, ponds, which serve as main source of drinking water to the people in the rural community. So in this way, open defecation can cause pollution of our water sources. And it promotes transmission of diseases in the sense that when you drink a contaminated water, you can have diarrhea diseases, you can have cholera, it can also result in typhoid. And even when you defecate in the open, flies are meant to perch on the feces and go and alight on your food if the food is not properly covered. So these are the means of propagation. And through hands also, when you defecate in the open, it is certain that you don't have access to water wherever you are doing this to maintain hand hygiene. In this way, when you go home and eat with dirty hands, it results in food contamination, and you can come down with all those water-related and sanitation-related diseases, like I've stated earlier on. So, open defecation impacts on healthy life. It impacts on education. I've mentioned that because a lot of women and girls, their lives are restricted. They don't enjoy social life, they don't enjoy economic life during menses. It has been found that millions of girls drop out of school by the time they commence their menses, by the time they start seeing their menses. So open defecation in a way impacts on the life of girls' child. It also impacts on economy and productivity and the overall development of a nation. It's
like a chain reaction.
It's like a vicious cycle, so it's interconnected. So you cannot achieve development without access to clean water, decent toilet, and good hygiene.
Wow. Okay, we'll also look at, we are also deficient when it comes to water supply. We'll look at that in the course of the discussion. Is it true that open defecation is linked to poverty?
True.
Yeah, but in a place like Abuja, where you have high-rising, so many buildings, and you have about 37, percent you know, of the people defecating in the open. Is it true that it's due to poverty?
It is true. It is true because you can't leave people out of poverty when they still defecate in the open. You know, like I've stated, open defecation results to propagation of illnesses, water-related diseases like diarrhea, cholera, and this will have a lot of economic implication on whoever is affected. Imagine Nigeria losing 60,000 children every year to diarrhea. You can imagine, because this is a lot of economic impact. How do you want to achieve that? It's worsening poverty, and poverty also results in poor health. So they are interrelated. In a way, open defecation also causes poverty.
If you look at the city center, the way it's built from the Murtala Mohammed Way, where it's popularly called the Kuba Express, you know, under the bridge here, down to Area 1 to Apo Bridge, you are going to see about four or five bridges from the bridge at the, you know, Tipper Park here, about 4 or 5 bridges. Yeah. And from here to that Apo Bridge, there is no single public toilet. So that's why some people differ that it's not really poverty. Maybe it's political will.
Yeah, yes. Actually, our government has shown a strong political will and a lot of high level of commitment regarding eradicating open defecation. One
bridge can give you 20 toilets.
Yes.
Good ones.
It can. And that is where I'm going to. President Muhammadu Buhari last year declared a state of emergency on WASH. And today he's going to launch a campaign on Clean Nigeria, Use the Toilet. So this campaign is just towards eradicating open defecation, educating people concerning open defecation, the dangers of open defecation. Actually, government is trying a lot, but they need to do more. In this way, they need to increase funding to water sanitation and hygiene activities in Nigeria. A lot of policies are in place. Last year, a lot of policies were formulated, plans were in place. But our problem is not policy formulation, but implementation. So the government needs to ensure there is a proper implementation of this set policy or formulated policy in such a way that there should be a roadmap to achieving all this. You have to put on a table.
It shouldn't end at launching.
How many toilets do you want to construct for Pape community within a year? Set it down and achieve it.
And at what interval?
And at what interval? That's why I said within a year. So the roadmap will show us clearly how this is going to be achieved. And apart from that, government also need to do more and spend more on intervention that could promote behavioral change. And I'm glad today he's going to launch a campaign regarding open defecation, which is a step in the right direction. But we need to do more. Put an intervention in our health facilities, in our schools, in our public places. Roll out the numbers of toilet that you want to construct along that Kuba Expressway so that people will stop defecating in the open.
Yes, those plying the way will just, if they are pressed a park and just do their business.
Yes.
Now, there is also an issue as regard to open defecation, which is more of culture. You know, in some setting, the father-in-law will say, I want to use the toilet used by his daughter-in-law.
Yes.
So one of them has to give way. It's either the father-in-law goes to do it in the open, or the daughter-in-law, would, do hers in the open. Most time, the daughter-in-law has to give way. So how can we deal with this?
Yes, that's what I've been saying. There is a socio-cultural aspect to open defecation. So, you know, it's in some culture to just do it, they are used to it, but this has to stop. And that is where an individual like us, you and I, have to come in. We need to educate people that are not aware. We need to tell them the dangers of open defecation. And a family or every family has a role to play also. regarding open defecation. So when everybody is carried along, that is why the theme is anchored on leaving no one behind. No one is left behind. It's not the only, it's not the responsibility of the government only. Each and every one of us has a role to play in addressing this socio-cultural problem regarding open defecation.
We need water to make hygiene complete. Yes. Wash, water, sanitation, and hygiene. And it appears there is a bit of challenge when it comes to water. How can we tackle this?
Well, the issue of water is global. It's not limited to Nigeria as a whole. Like I've said earlier on, millions of people don't have access to clean water. In fact, about 500,000 people drink fecal contaminated water in the whole world.
Yeah, what do you mean by that for the benefit of our viewers?
What I mean by fecal contaminated water is water that has been contaminated with feces. That means a lot of water we drink are not actually pure. They are not actually clean.
They're not safe for drinking.
They are not safe for
consumption.
Yes, they are not safe for consumption. So they've been contaminated by our feces. Because when you defecate in the open, it ends up coming to your plate or to your cup. You end up drinking it or eating it. So that is why we need to stop open defecation. Government should supply water. And government is trying its best regarding water supply to the IDPs. A lot of boreholes has been sunk. Then a lot of construction going on to improve water supply, sanitation, and hygiene in Nigeria.
It is said that when one uses the toilet, it's apt for the person to, wash with soap or with ash, whatever. But where you do not have water, how can that, be complete? How can the hygiene be complete when there's no water?
Yes. We emphasize on hand washing with soap and water. That is what we...
That is when there is water.
Yes, when there is water. It is the simplest and most effective intervention to prevent you from contacting diseases when you wash your hand with soap and water. But when water is not available, you can actually use ashes. Some people walk where they have turbid water. Still go ahead and use the water. Any water that is available, use it to wash your hand. Because
but most time, you people will say use running water. And the running water is not available.
Yes, if running water is not available, you can ask for help of an individual to help you pour the water. So there are actually like 7 steps to hand washing, to effective hand washing. The first step is to wet your hand with water. If there is no running tap, ask an individual or somebody around you to help you to pour. After wetting the hands with water, then you pour soap, or you use whatever soap available, and you begin to form a lather on the palm. Then the second step is to wash in between the fingers. Then you wash the back of your finger. Then the nail bed, you concentrate on the nail bed. Then you wash your wrist. Then you rinse and hair dry. You are not meant to be using hand towel to dry your hand, because you might be contaminated. You might be contaminating already cleaned hands. So that is why you need to hair dry it. So when water is not available, you can use ashes. Ashes in local community could be used. You rub it in the same way, in the same process that I've just highlighted.
And it will give you the same result.
And it will give close to the same result.
Close to the same result. Okay, yeah, once again, it is World Toilet Day, and this discussion is really important. We all, like it or not, you just have to excrete so long as you eat, except you are an angel that don't consume food. But if you do, you need to discharge all that you have consumed. But how do you discharge that is what we are discussing today, so that you don't end up in the process of discharging, you invite terrible disease on yourself. Airborne disease, waterborne disease, it's just so enormous what you can get when you defecate in the open. Open defecation, does it have anything to do with child malnutrition?
Yes, it does. You know, I mentioned diarrhea diseases. Children are mostly affected. Under 5 children, they are mostly affected. A child that doesn't have sufficient food, or even the ones that have sufficient food, when he comes down with diarrhea, what happens? He loses all the nutrients, all the available nutrients in the body, and the reserve in the body is also lost. So this in a way will result in malnutrition, stunted growth, and it affects the development of a child. Even the IQ of a child is being affected because that child will not grow up to be smart. He will not grow up to become an healthy and productive adult. So that is
because of malnutrition.
Because of malnutrition. So that is in a way by which open defecation can cause malnutrition.
But most time when they talk about malnutrition, the focus is stunting and wasting. Can you enlighten us on that?
Yeah, when you talk, malnutrition is broad. Stunting is a different thing, and wasting, it has to do with loss of muscle mass when the child becomes lean. Stunting has to do with growth. That child will not achieve the height that he's supposed to achieve. So the height for age is affected, while in wasting, the weight for age is impacted on.
And that has to do with, in a way, also affecting the level of intelligence of the child?
It is, because when you are growing, when a child is growing, it tends to grow as a whole. Brain is part of the body, and it's growing also. And the growth of brain requires a lot of fuels, like glucose. So if a child lacks glucose, that child will not grow properly. And you know, we define health as a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being. It doesn't have to do with physical alone. The mental aspect is talking about the brain.
Which is even more important.
Which is even more important, really. So that is why the brain is impacted on.
Okay, can we now look at how this can be tackled, all of this, the open defecation, the malnutrition, the cultural thing. Many people still believe that, hey, if you do it in the open, there's a space for you, you enjoy it, you have breeze blowing you from left, right, and center, so you don't need to go and just tie yourself in one small place in the name of toilet.
Like I've said earlier on, each and every one of us has a role to play in eradicating open defecation. President Muhammadu Buhari cannot do it alone. You have a role to play, I have a role to play. As a government, a lot of interventions has been put in place, and it will begin to roll out very soon. I think we're supposed to key into it and hone it. We shouldn't allow culture or tradition to impair us from achieving open defecation-free nation. So we should imbibe in the culture of behavioral change. Let's change our behavior. If you see someone defecating in the open, you educate him the dangers of what he's doing. Because that guy will end up eating his own feces or drinking his own feces, directly or indirectly. So in this way, each and every one of us have a role to play in eradicating open defecation in Nigeria.
How can we help the rural dwellers who, to an extent, have low level of income to begin to build toilets?
Well, they need to be empowered. They need to be supported, and which is part of what government is planning to do. Sometimes most intervention fails because people don't see it as their own. They don't participate. They don't own the intervention. If you go and build a very hypervaluting or a gigantic facility at a rural community, they won't use it because it's not culturally and socially acceptable to them. That is why we need to start from the grassroots. The top-bottom approach will not work. Let's start by advocating for open defecation-free community, open defecation-free environment, individual can also create an micro ecosystem around him or herself to ensure that his environment is clean. And this will expand and generate into a clean community. So in this way, government needs to help people by supporting them, by motivating them to use their own available resources. Incentives could also be given in building toilets, facilities in rural communities.
Okay, let's take a quick break. When we come back, we'll continue from the incentive that can help rural dwellers to build their own toilet. Okay. Let's go on a quick break.
I think she's got the hots for me. I think she likes me.
I don't think so.
I think she
Cut it out. That's my girlfriend.
I'm out. Coming through. Yeah, that's it, baby. I'm all yours.
Taste me now.
Woo-hoo! So tasty.
How is it going in there?
Pretty cozy.
Mini-Me. Taste the fun.
You're still watching this morning on ITV. The discussion is on World Toilet Day, and our consultant, public health physician here, Dr. Aderonke Akande, has said quite a lot, has advised the public as well as government on how they could ensure that there is enough toilet so that the effect of not having it will be reduced to the barest minimum. And we are really on the aspect where those in the rural communities, those that have low income, on how they can help themselves in terms of building toilet in a way that they will also join those that are free from open defecation. Dr. Akande, you were talking about incentive for those that are in the rural areas so that they can, begin to build their own toilet. Yes. And then one would just wonder, why would the people in the rural community, most time they place calls to their friends, family members in the city for support on many things, and they hardly say, I need support to build toilet. And most time during electionary period, you see politicians go to this community to canvass for vote. And what do we see? They give them salt, they give them, poor quality textile material, they give them, shinap, and, just the things that they need for that day's consumption. And most time they ask, what do you need? They hardly say, we need toilet. So how can we really help these people out?
Well, like I said earlier on, government can give incentives to local community by empowering them. They can train them on dangers of open defecation, on how to use toilets, on hygiene promotion. So this, in a way, will build their confidence and capacity in order to look inward within themselves. A lot of programs like this has been carried out in several communities, even in Nigeria also. We call it community-led total sanitation. Community-led total sanitation simply means when community use their available resources to cater for sanitation issues around them. So it's not like as if government is bringing intervention directly and imposing it on them. They own it, they participate in it. A local bricklayer could be empowered. With a token, you train him on what to do and construct a ventilated, improved toilet in his own community with the help of the community leaders and women groups. So this in a way will help them to utilize what they have built from their own local resources. Because most of the time when government brings intervention to them, it fails. Because if you don't carry them along, they won't participate.
Then what about NGOs? We see them most time, you know, giving out relief materials to all and sundry, and toilet is really not part of it.
Yes, non-governmental organizations also. There are some of them that are investing in building toilets, but it's not enough because of the enormous size of the problem. So the issue is that the government, the developmental partners, the non-governmental organization and individuals have this role to play in achieving that toilet is built in your community and toilet is being utilized in your community. Because it's one thing to build and people will not use, and it's another thing to build and people will use. So using it is what is important. There are so many communities that have toilets, but they don't use it due to their practice, the harmful practice.
So they need some kind of civic education.
They need education. So that's why I said they should be trained and empowered. When they are trained on the dangers of open defecation, they end up taking the responsibility of sanitation.
Yeah, one of the goals of the SDGs is ending open defecation by 2030. Do you think Nigeria will be able to make that?
Actually, we are making progress towards that, and I think it's achievable anyway.
Yeah, we just have barely 11 years to go.
The goal, the Sustainable Development Goal 6, aim at eradicating open defecation by the year 2030 and making sanitation available, sanitation services available by the year 2030 also. So this government intervention, I think it will go a long way.
Okay, I must thank you for coming on the show this morning.
Viewers,
that's the much we have. We've been discussing with an elegant doctor, a consultant, public health physician, Dr. Adironke Akande, and we'll be looking at World Toilet Day. The discussion took us to open defecation, took us to the need for water, and of course, it is just hope that relevant stakeholders who, of course, have joined on the program in terms of watching will, of course, abide by her recommendations by ensuring that not only launching a policy or a program will do the magic. What will do the magic is when you implement the program or policies so launched. That way we'll be free from open defecation. And she's optimistic that with the level of plans on the ground, come 2030, Nigeria may just join the rest of the world to say, hey, we are free from open defecation. Many thanks for coming on the show, Doctor.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, we'll take a quick break. When we come back, the program this morning on ITV will continue.